And welcome into the Paul Farrington Show, a Wednesday edition. Sorry for being a day late. We had some storms up here in the Northeast. We couldn't record yesterday. Although, actually, it turned out that the storms were not as bad as they looked to be right before our record.
You don't got to tell them that. They don't know.
No,
Maybe the power went out.
The fans deserve to know.
No, yeah. It's look, I'm not a big fan of driving in bad storms, and I believe that was Jack's fear on the fear draft. If you go back and watch that reel, it's a pretty good reel. I don't like driving in bad storms. Zach doesn't like it. Ziggy said, be safe, guys. There were some tornado warnings. We decided to push the show a day. But we have a good show. We have a really fun show. NFC and AFC tiers lists for who we think can reach the Super Bowl. So it's a little different than just a power ranking. It's how much you believe a team can actually get to the Super Bowl. There are different factors like the division they're in, potential a little bit, all sorts of things like that. Paul Farrington joined alongside Robert Ziggy Ziegler at the University of Virginia. Zach Bloomquist, the best executive producer in the game. Jack will be back with us tomorrow. We're recording for our Thursday show. He's on a bar crawl right now. He's got some family vacation stuff going on right now. So I'm sure if we were to call Jack into the show, it would be a disaster, to say the least. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the show. Wherever you're listening, we thank you very much. We appreciate you spending some time. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to talk about, what we can improve upon. As we always say, we take hate mail too. We receive a lot of it, and you know what? We're okay with that. We can deal with it. So Ziggy, I'll go over the tier list real quick. This was my tier list here, and I think Zach is going to pull it up on the screen right now for us. It's my tier list, and I'll go through it, and then you can tell me where I went wrong. Okay, I tried to divide it up so it's not just S, A, B, C like most tier lists. I gave the titles to them to some degree. They're not completely accurate, but I think they look good. So
they're pretty close.
Yeah,
they give you a general idea what's going on. I'm in.
All right, sweet. So let's do this. At the top of the NFC tier list, the favorites, the Eagles and the 49ers, elite offenses, elite defenses, both top 5 in the NFL, and elite coaches in Kyle Shanahan and Nick Sirianni. That's who I have at the top. Level down, the next best contenders, in this case, contender, the Dallas Cowboys. Some people might have them on that first tier. I just can't see it yet. There's not great numbers for last season comparing them to the Eagles because Dak was out for one game, Hurts was out for the other. They lost to the 49ers in the playoffs. It's just this Dallas team. We've seen they haven't been to an NFC championship game since 1995. They haven't been on a playoff run in a long time. So despite having a top 5 defense in the NFL and probably a top 10 offense, I can't put them on that first tier yet because we just haven't seen it. We've seen the Eagles and 49ers going far in the playoffs or all the way to the Super Bowl, not yet with Dallas. Next layer down, the third tier, there's a world is what I called it. The Vikings, the Lions, and the Seahawks. If you were to take a look at these offenses, all really good. In points per game last season, Detroit was 5th, Minnesota 8th, and Seattle 9th. Now, the reason I have Minnesota, and I actually did rank it, so whoever's the furthest left is actually at the top of the tier. Detroit and Seattle both have made pretty big improvements to their defense this offseason. We've seen Seattle bring in Bobby Wagner. They draft Devin Witherspoon at 5 overall. The Lions add C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The Vikings, though, I have at the top because despite not really addressing the defense as strong as the other two teams, I think Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback between Kirk, Goff, and Geno. In fact, I think Kirk is the second best quarterback in the NFC. That goes a long way for me. They're at the top of the third tier. Go down to the fourth tier, need a quarterback jump. Got the Saints, the Giants, and the Bears. This is the one where I think a lot of people will have problems. The Saints are there. Are we going to get the old Derek Carr or the Derek Carr we saw last season? I think he could be a little rejuvenated. The fact that they're in that NFC South too gives them an easy path to a division title. Got them there. The Giants now. This is an interesting one. If Daniel Jones does take the jump, we saw last year in Brian Dable's first season, they got to the divisional round. They've gotten fairly far in the playoffs in just one season with them. I'm not thrilled with the receiving weapons. So I'm hesitant to put them any higher on this list. And of course, they have Dallas and Philly to go through. But if Daniel Jones can take a leap, which I don't think he will, but if he does, I like it. Now, the Bears. I think this is a team that people will have the biggest beef with. I put them there because if Justin Fields is able to live up to the potential that all the Bears fans are hyping up, you're talking about a potential top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And if that's the case, in terms of reaching the Super Bowl, I don't think the Bears will. In fact, I'm very confident they won't. But I have to consider them a better candidate than the teams below them. Those teams are, in the next category, playoffs is a win. Falcons, Commanders, Panthers, Packers, all of them have fairly new quarterback, or actually new quarterback starting next season. Ritter, Sam Howell, Bryce Young, Jordan Love. Not sure what we're going to see there. Tier down, not happening. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask looks like a disaster in the making. Rams defense is horrible. And the bottom tier, number one pick, the Cardinals. We know it's not going to be good next year without Kyler Murray. So what do you think, Ziggy? There's your NFC tiers. What are your biggest problems with that list?
You big problems here. The first, I think the Buccaneers are too high. As tough as that is to say, putting them the third worst team in the NFC, I think they belong firmly at number one pick contender. I mean, you're hearing in training camp right now, there's a real battle between Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield. You're seeing a lot of aging players on the defense with a few key contributors leaving. I don't see this team going anywhere. Similarly, I think actually you're a little bit too negative on the Rams because as we talked about in our NFC West preview, the Rams do have a good quarterback. They've got a great wide receiver. They've got a star on the defense. If some of those younger players can step up and just give them a slightly below average defense, the offense could be taking them pretty far.
I guess so. You know, with the Rams there, Cooper Kupp already has suffered an injury. I just think that there's not anyone on that defense except Donald. I know we're hoping for some young guys to take a step up. I just don't see it. Look, it could happen, but in terms of putting them on the same tier as those four teams above them, I just think the roster's a little too weak. And then aren't you surprised that Baker hasn't beat out Kyle Trask by now firmly?
That's worrying.
That's very concerning.
The way that the beat reporters are cashing it out is Kyle Trask is having his best practices ever. But there's not a lot to like in Kyle Trask. He's sort of like Jordan Love, except he hasn't even shown one good game in the NFL. Right? People keep talking about how the Packers are in danger because Jordan Love isn't an exciting quarterback. He showed more in college and he showed more in the NFL. I'd be very nervous if it were Trask and Baker Mayfield for my team.
Yeah, look, if Baker's just okay, you can put the Bucs in that playoffs as a win tier because the rest of the roster is okay. There's some talent on that team. It's just the reports did not look good. And last time we saw Baker Mayfield, it wasn't pretty. All right, so the Bucs and the Rams, a little bit of issues there. Anything else? Or is this perfect? This
pains me to say it, Paul. My biggest issue on this entire list, the Vikings. I think they are way too high. You don't have a tier called needs a defense jump, but if we imagine such a tier, I think the Vikings are in it, and I think they're firmly behind at least the Saints. The defense was so bad. It was so bad.
It was.
And I get you've got Brian Flores coming in, but it's going to take him a while to implement his scheme. And it's not like they've got perfect players for him to work with, right? It's largely Daniil Hunter and a bunch of nobodies.
And an aging Harrison Smith. Yes, that's
I mean, Harrison Smith is going to play like 8 games this year. It pains me to say it. I mean, I love Harrison Smith, but you can't have Harrison Smith be the key to your secondary.
It was the Vikings and the Bears were the two teams that I figured most people would have problems with. Are you,
the Bears?
So you're not even. Are you okay with the tier the Vikings are in? Would you put them at?
No.
Okay,
they should be a tier down. Like, there's no spot for them because I think, and fair enough, like the needs a quarterback tier makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you imagine an equivalent needs a defense tier, the Vikings are in there.
Gotcha.
So they should be down 4 or 5 teams. You've got them 4 teams ahead of the Giants who obliterated them in the playoffs.
Obliterated's tough. It was a 1-score game, but.
Look, Paul, you watched that game. They obliterated us.
They obliterated the defense. Yeah, that is true. That is true. All right. How about Chicago, New York?
I'm okay with that. Particularly, I think New York, I can't see them winning a Super Bowl. I just can't. But I could absolutely see them taking a step forward and making the NFC Championship game. Or at least, I think returning the divisional round is extremely reasonable, right? They've gotten more weapons for Daniel Jones. I know you said you're not super excited, but I'm really expecting a lot from Darren Waller this year.
Oh, it's certainly better than last year.
Yeah, and last year they were good enough to beat a highly seeded Vikings team. And I get that the Vikings had problems. I mean, I just talked about them, but if they draw a favorable matchup or two, and I think they can place well enough in like the wild card standings to do that, it's totally possible for this team to win a couple games.
And we mentioned this before when we were talking about the Giants in our NFC East preview, but last year, 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns for Daniel Jones. A lot of people, you have to consider it the best season he's had as a pro, but those numbers don't jump out at you. So if you're able to, and I do want to acknowledge he had 700 rushing yards because a lot of people were upset we didn't mention that when talking about the Giants.
And that's a real number.
That's a real number. That's a great rushing season for a quarterback. But if you're able to unlock another level of him, and maybe Darren Waller and Jalen Hyatt and these new offensive weapons can do that, you're talking about a team with a legitimate chance of making a run. You could see them getting in and making some noise. Again, are they good enough to beat the Eagles or the Niners or the Cowboys? Still probably not. But with a really good Daniel Jones and not just what we saw last season, maybe there's a chance. They did get blown out in those games last year, though. That is the concern.
The other team that I think of that I'm a little bit worried about are the Bears. I know you talked about the need for an offensive improvement, and that's true, but I think that's probably coming. But they've an equally big need for a huge defensive improvement, right? They had the worst scoring defense in the NFL last year. They were fourth worst in yards per game. And I get there are a lot of additions, right? They brought in new linebackers. Like there's a lot that they did
big
to improve the defense.
Yes.
Yeah, but even if like Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, even if like those signings work out, you're still talking about a defense going from worst to needs to be average for them to do a whole lot. Right? This team won 3 games last year.
Yeah, you can't forget that they had the number 1 pick in the draft, and I believe they lost their final 10 games of the season. I'll have to fact check that. But yeah, what we talk, so many people are excited about the Bears, and it's okay to be excited because Justin Fields is that exciting of a player for them. But you have to remember in the back of your mind, like there's a reason you're picking number 1 overall. Now they did have a great offseason, probably one of the best in the National Football League, and that's why I have them right behind the Giants in the 4th tier. It's just I look at this team and I say, okay, if Fields really does take that leap forward and becomes a superstar, yeah, you have to consider them a team that can make a run because you're hoping the defense makes improvements too. DJ Moore, a huge add. He has weapons. I mean, talk about Daniel Jones finally having guys. The Bears did a better job than the Giants. So Justin Fields, no more excuses. You got to go and improve. Anyone else on that list?
I was just thinking, can you believe that last year the NFC North had 3 of the 4 worst defenses in the NFL?
Oh, no.
And it's not like they were playing offensive firehouses either, right? Like, the Lions were really good. The Vikings were pretty good, but it's not like they were facing the Chiefs and the Chargers every week. The defenses were putrid. So every single team, except the Packers, it's not like the Packers were a great defense, right? They were average. That made them so much better than everyone else. And
then I do think Detroit has potential, especially because their defense has made some big jumps this offseason. If they're able to maintain that 8-2 team that we saw the final 10 games of the regular season, I mean, they were a top 10 team in football going into the playoffs. If they had been able to get in, I think they would have given San Francisco the biggest problems. So there's someone I'm still questioning a little bit because I'm not fully confident in Jared Goff. I have the Vikings above them because, like I said, I trust Kirk. I think Kirk is a top 10 quarterback in the league, and that goes a long way for me. But yeah, there we go on the NFC. Zach, was there anyone, just to get the producers' approval real quick, was that a good list, or are you pretty upset with this?
My only change. Yeah,
oh, really?
Maybe only change is those Lions.
Above the Vikings?
Above the Vikings.
All right.
Lions should be above the Vikings. I'm willing to look at that. Honestly, if I weren't so excited for what the Cowboys are doing offensively, I might be willing to move them up a tier.
That was actually one thing as well. I had the Cowboys originally because I manipulated these tiers over the past couple days. I had the Cowboys on the top tier, and then I was just thinking about it, going like, okay, do I really think they can beat either of these teams? Yeah, on their good days, yes. But I'm still picking Philly and San Francisco probably 7 out of 10 times. So if that's the case, there's got to be a separation between them.
I also feel like the Seahawks are just like a weird team.
I think that whole tier is weird. Yeah. That whole tier is strange teams.
Just because I don't believe, not that I don't believe in Geno Smith, but like there's a reason why he was a backup quarterback for
Yeah, that third tier
Most
is
of your
supposed to
career.
be for the NFC. I kept them the same tier, the tier names for both AFC and NFC. Maybe doesn't apply as much, but at least for the NFC, I do feel like the Vikings, Lions, and Seahawks are all teams where you say, yeah, probably not, or in most situations, probably not. But there's a chance if everything goes right. So that's why I got them there.
And I see we don't believe in Sam Howell. Actually, I can't believe Washington's even that far up. Now that I think about it,
The great defense. They were really good.
they have a great defense, but what are they scoring? 3 points a game?
Maybe.
If Sam Howell plays like a 5th round quarterback, this team has no chance. I mean, I've been a little bit surprised in Washington to hear how players are talking about Eric Bieniemy. That doesn't seem to be going over super well. We can save that for a future show.
We'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, so there you go. That's the NFC. We'll move on to the AFC. Please leave comments whether or not you agree with that tier ranking, that list. Again, if you agree or not, doesn't matter. Just leave it in the comments section.
I already hate this list.
Yeah,
you hate this list, the AFC?
I already hate it.
All right.
This AFC list is putrid.
Are you kidding me? I think I think both these lists are actually really good. I put a lot of thought
of course
into
you
these.
think they're good. You made them.
All right, well, let's get into it here. At the top, the favorites, the best 3 quarterbacks in the game, plain and simple. We're talking about 3 teams in the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills, who have all been to the conference championship game at least once in the past 3 seasons. They've all made the divisional round the past 2 years. This is easy cut for me. I think they're 3 best teams. The next best contenders, a tier down, I have the Jets, the Ravens, and the Dolphins. I was really debating, and we'll get into it a little bit more in the analysis. I wasn't sure what to do with Miami. I moved them up to this tier. The reason is, outside of Robert Saleh, who still needs to prove himself as a coach to me, I look at this tier and I see good to great coaches, good to great quarterbacks, and good to great defenses. The Jets obviously have Aaron Rodgers and a great defense. The Ravens, very good defense, great coach, great quarterback in Lamar. Dolphins, I would say, good coach, good quarterback. When Tua's healthy, he has flashes of great. And then obviously the Dolphins, of course, have a top 10 defense in the National Football League. Hopefully Jalen Ramsey's injury won't prove too detrimental to them. He'll come back later.
Sorry, we got Eli Apple.
That's you're hearing good things from the Dolphins. It seems like other corners are stepping up. So it's hopefully not the end of the world. Still a pretty strong defense with Vic Fangio. Moving down to there's a world tier, the third tier, I had the Jaguars and the Chargers. Peterson and Lawrence, I see top 10 coach, top 10 quarterback. I love that. Some questions on the defense. That's why they're not in the second tier. The Chargers, will Brandon Staley get it together? A lot of talent on this team. Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. When's it going to happen? We've seen so many of these crazy collapses late in games. We mentioned just the other day, the Chargers-Jaguars game, 27-0 lead, can't be blown. Third tier for the Jaguars and the Chargers. Going down now to the fourth tier, the needs a quarterback jump, I have the Browns, the Steelers, and the Broncos. The Browns, if Deshaun Watson gets it together, this Cleveland team, super talented. I like what they could do. TJ Watt, if he stays healthy, Steelers were 7-2 with him last season. Down the stretch, they were 7-2 with Kenny Pickett starting to play better. If Pickett takes that jump, Steelers are a sneaky contender. And then the Broncos there, 5-12 last year, but if they averaged 20 points a game, they would have been 10-7. Can Sean Payton make up that difference? We'll see what happens. Going down to our fifth tier, the playoffs is a win. I have the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots. Some good moves for Tennessee lately with DeAndre Hopkins. The secondary's healing up. We'll see. I like Mike Vrabel a lot. And then the Patriots, you know they'll have a great defense with Belichick, but do they have enough offensive firepower with Mac right now? I don't think so. That's why I have them in the fifth tier. Going down to sixth tier, not happening. Raiders and Colts. Some excitement on the Raiders offense, but defense has a lot of work. And the Colts, it'll be fun to watch Anthony Richardson, but it is still a long way to go for them. And then in our last tier, number 1 pick contender, the Texans, DeMeco Ryans has a lot of work to do. CJ Stroud will be fun to watch. We'll see his development, but there's a lot of holes on that roster, and I have them at the bottom of the AFC. Initial thoughts. What is so wrong with this tier list?
So I've got a few thoughts here. I'm curious because, Zach, you reacted stronger than me. Do you have anything you want to say first?
You already know what I'm saying. The Dolphins should be ahead of the Jets. That's incredible that you put that there. They should definitely be in front of the Ravens. We beat them last year.
Wait, are you okay with that tier, though?
No.
Well, who should be Should someone be down? I'm talking about the teams in the tier, not the order.
Teams in each tier?
Yeah, the teams in the tier is okay, regardless of the ranking within the tier.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So that whole reaction was just because the Jets are above the Dolphins?
Oh, did you expect another reaction out of me?
Fair enough.
I also think the Bills should be down lower.
I can't put that until they're dethroned. I can't put them lower. The 13 wins last season. I actually think that they're being underrated going into the season.
There's no question they're being underrated.
What do you think, Ziggy?
So a few things here. I'm going to sort of do what I did last time, start at the bottom, move our way up.
Sure.
One thing that I think the Patriots should be in the needed quarterback jump tier for the following reason. They had a great defense last year, right? It was top 10 in points per game, top 10 in yards per game, and it's going to be top 10 again this year. If we get Pro Bowl Mac Jones, which you've already seen, and I get, people talk about Pro Bowls, they're sort of irrelevant. They're kind of popularity votes, but Mac Jones has played well before. If he can give them an average offense with an above average defense, that's a team that can make the playoffs. And if he can do better than that, if he can give them an above average offense, they could be very good. So okay. I'm always going to go with the Belichick coaching edge. If he can get good performances out of Mac Jones, the team will be good. So I think they should be a little bit higher.
Okay. Who else you got?
I think that the Jaguars should be up a tier.
I actually moved them down an hour before the show.
I get why they're that low, right? They haven't shown a whole lot. But based on what I'm expecting to do next year, you should have an excellent quarterback and an excellent offense with a solid defense and great coaching. And that's just that we know that's a recipe for success in the NFL.
And a very weak division, too. A very weak division that they should win.
You look at the teams above them, right? Like every single one of those teams plays in a tough division. The Chiefs, I get that they always win, but at some point that'll change. The teams in the division are good. Obviously, if you've got 3 teams in the AFC East up there and 2 teams in the AFC North, that's going to be a tough division.
Yep.
And again, you look at the AFC North, you've got 2 more teams, and that needs a jump tier.
AFC North, I think that's the best division in football this year. I think that's really good teams.
Yeah, so because the Jaguars, I think, have an easier division, they've got an easier path to getting the 1 seed. They should be very good this year. I think they belong a little bit higher.
I can get behind that. So I had Miami in the 3rd tier and Jacksonville in the 2nd initially. I know Zach is stunned at that. That reveal.
Incredible that you even thought
hold on.
that.
I'll tell you why, because I didn't address your initial one. I did really like Jacksonville's path to at least the 4 seed, winning the division, getting a home playoff game. And there are some concerns with Tua to me. I can't ignore that. I don't want to have that impact the rankings too much, but if Tua's hurt, this Dolphins team takes a major step back. The reason for the switch is because I was trying to think in my head, okay, if both teams get in, because it'll be tough. Miami doesn't exactly have a clear path to the playoffs. Jacksonville does. But if both of them were to get in and go head to head, I think Miami is a more talented team. I think Miami's really, really good. I might even put them ahead of the Ravens in terms of actual pure talent. So that's why I put them up in the 2nd tier. I think that they can have a better chance of getting there based on the talent they have. Jacksonville, I look at the path more. If Jacksonville goes up against the Bengals or the Bills on the road, I don't have too much confidence in them just yet. Miami, I'm a little more confident in. So that was the reason for the change. But yeah, I think both those teams obviously are really, really close. So Denver was one I wanted to get your opinions on because I had them in the playoffs as a win tier and moved them up just before the show as well.
The internal expectations are certainly higher than playoffs as a win, but we don't really care about internal expectations here. I think you've got them in the right tier. I like the ordering, but I think you have them in the right place. I'm expecting the defense to take a step back, but if the offense can be top 10, this is a team that, again, are they competing for the Super Bowl next year? Probably not. Should they win at least 1 playoff game? Yes. And I think that's really what's dividing the tiers, right? Yeah. Playoffs as a win just says it's an honor to be nominated. If you're higher than that, your team should be expecting to win a playoff game this year. And they're better than that.
Zach, you can easily go between the 2 tiers on the screen, right? You can show the NFC. So I just want to point out here, what I find so intriguing about the two-tier lists, and it really does show the difference between the competition in the NFC versus the AFC. I think you can basically draw a line underneath there's a world in the NFC. Really, you could probably do it underneath the Cowboys, but I'm willing to extend down a tier and say, like, okay, those are the 6 teams. I would be really, really surprised if anyone from the Saints, Giants, Bears on made the Super Bowl or went on a deep run even. And then in the AFC, you look at that, and I go like, okay, wow, you can add in all the way down to the Titans and the Patriots are good. I'd say underneath the Browns, Steelers, and Broncos in the 4th tier, that's where I draw the line and say that separates the actual contenders from the teams I don't have much confidence in. It's just, you're talking what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 11 teams in the AFC versus 6, maybe 3 in the NFC. Just a wildly different approach to the conferences. So you have to remember this tier list, even though the Bears are in the 4th tier in the NFC and the Steelers and Browns are in the 4th tier in the AFC. This tier is about who can get to the Super Bowl, given the conference that they have. So that's some of the kind of just, it's gonna be a fun season to watch.
It's you look at the AFC, and I think you're right that 11 of those teams seems like they can make a deep run. 4 of those teams at least are gonna miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You look in the NFC, I firmly expect that every NFC contender will make the playoffs probably pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list right now.
Like, will the Jets and the Dolphins, it's extremely likely that one of the Bills, Jets, or Dolphins misses the playoffs, right? That's just how the NFL works. It's tough to get 2 of those 3 wildcard spots to go to one division.
Yep. And
that means, one, can you imagine if the Eagles, 49ers, or Cowboys miss the playoffs? I'll be blown away.
Yeah. And
if the Dolphins miss the playoffs, would it be a stunner?
Oh, you could have the
Ravens.
Ravens.
Be surprising. It'd be disappointing.
You could have 2 of the 3 teams in the 2nd tier miss the playoffs in the AFC between the Jets, Ravens, and Dolphins. Like, would it be stunning if you had a scenario where the top 3 teams, Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, get in, Jaguars win, and then you have, let's say the Jets, the Chargers, and the Steelers, or the Browns? Like, you're talking about the Dolphins and Ravens missing. So yeah, you're right. It's the competitiveness of each conference is very different.
You can take basically any team in that top 11 in the AFC, and I'm moving them up a tier.
Yeah.
If you put them in the NFC.
Let me ask one more team before we go on to the top 100 quarterbacks that we're going to reveal what they're, or not reveal, but talk about where they ranked. The Chargers in the 3rd tier, right behind the Jaguars. Are you okay with that? Because I know some people are really high on this team. Should they get any consideration for the 2nd tier?
I like the Chargers ahead of the Jaguars. I know people like to bring up the fact that the Jaguars won twice, but you got to put that in context a little bit. The first win was when Justin Herbert was coming off that pretty bad, cartilage rib fracture. Mm-hmm. And then the second one was 1 point in a miraculous comeback. And again, I know it's popular to hate on Brandon Staley, but you can look at the in-game decisions and they're still better than almost everyone else in the NFL. If you look at them in an aggregate, they've got
standout moments. That's a big difference for Staley.
Yeah, but you can run the math. He's a good coach in making in-game decisions. He's probably got the better quarterback. He may indeed have the better defense. There's certainly more stars on that defense.
I think he does. I think the Chargers have a better team. I put the Jaguars ahead of them, again, because of the clearer path to the playoffs.
But assuming, again, like you've said this for a few teams, assuming they both make the playoffs, I'd probably give the edge to the Chargers. Because with the Jaguars, a lot of it's projection. We're expecting Trevor Lawrence to take one more step forward. We're expecting the defense to take one more step forward. We're expecting Calvin Ridley to come in and be a very good player. The Chargers already have their wide receiver. They've already got their star quarterback. They've already got stars on the defense.
I like the Jaguars a lot, but while making this ranking, I did take a moment to say, okay, let's slow down for a second and really think about this team. They got to the divisional round. That was great. But how confident am I really in them taking a step up? I think they're good. But I don't think they're a great team. I don't think they're in that tier 1, really even tier 2 of the AFC. So that was a big moment for me to say, okay, let's relax on Jacksonville for just a second. Peterson's great. Lawrence is great. There's a lot of potential, but we really haven't seen that manifest into anything yet. They were down 27-0. They were getting blown out. It was an awesome comeback. And they did take the Chiefs to the wire, but there's still a long way to go for this Jaguars team. So not yet. Not yet for me.
A couple games doesn't make me ignore the noise. And again, like,
they could be really good. They
will. We saw sort of like the Lions. We saw two very different Jaguars teams last year. You hope you build on the momentum, but it also means you've got a floor.
Yep. All right, so there you go. There's the NFC and AFC tiers to get to the Super Bowl. Remember, not a power ranking to get to the Super Bowl. Different tiers. Let's go on to the top 100 players. They finished the list last night. The top 10. 10, Chris Jones. 9, Micah Parsons. 8, Tyreek Hill. 8, Josh Allen. 7, Tyreek Hill. 6, Joe Burrow. 5, Travis Kelce. 4 was Nick Bosa. 3, Jalen Hurts. 2, Justin Jefferson. Let's go. And number 1 was Patrick Mahomes. There were 14 quarterbacks who made this list, Zach. I think you'll really enjoy hearing this. 14 quarterbacks made the list. Mm-hmm. Do you know what Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith, Tua, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence have in common?
They're all behind Kirk Cousins.
They are all behind Captain Kirk Cousins. Yes, that is true. Kirk coming in as the number 6 ranked quarterback, according to his peers, number 42 overall. You think should I list these quarterbacks and where they were? Is that a little too much, or you like it?
I think it's a little too much.
Okay.
There were a few outrageous rankings, and there were a few. They've got a thing where players give justifications for their rankings. Some players said some really outrageous things.
Yeah, Ziggy wasn't too. You know what? I'll just do it real quick so people can understand what we're talking about. Okay,
fair.
The 14th ranked quarterback and 96 overall was Trevor Lawrence, so that raised a lot of eyebrows. 13th quarterback, 86 overall, Justin Fields. 12th quarterback, 82nd overall was Tua. 11 and 77 overall, Geno. 10 and 72 overall was Lamar. Another shocking one there to have Lamar as the 10th rated quarterback. Number 9 and 66 overall was Jared Goff. Number 8 and 56 overall, Dak Prescott. 7 and 51 overall, Aaron Rodgers. 6 and 42 overall was Kirk. 5th and 32 overall, Justin Herbert. The 4th quarterback, number 8 overall, Josh Allen. Joe Burrow was number 3 with being the 6th overall. And then 2nd quarterback and 3rd overall, Jalen Hurts. And number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Well deserved there.
Real question. How many of those quarterbacks made the playoffs?
You saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of them made the playoffs. Who was the one team that didn't? I'm trying to think.
Geno?
No, Geno's there. Am I missing someone? Oh, Purdy.
Yeah.
Oh, Purdy.
Yeah, Purdy. So, 11 of the top 14 made the playoffs. Justin Fields, Goff, and Rodgers were the only 3 who didn't. That makes sense. Checks out there. So, let me ask you guys about Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson there. Trevor Lawrence being 14, Lamar 10. Is that just a product of biases, you think, and, recency factors, stuff like that? Like, why would Trevor Lawrence be 14? That makes no sense. It feels like most people have him at 10 overall. Do you have any answer for that, Ziggy?
You're asking me to explain what these guys are thinking.
I'm just curious.
I can live with Lamar. Like, I get the Lamar thing, right? Because it's like, I think even guys in the NFL sort of fall for this ridiculous narrative that like Lamar is just a running back, can't throw the ball, can't do a whole lot. Guys who actually have to play against him 2 times a year talk about him a little differently, but the same way that like NFL GMs have consistently been low on Lamar Jackson no matter what he does. I think that some NFL players, it's probably the same way, and that hurts his rankings. Lawrence, I have no idea.
Yeah, no, it's just it's interesting.
Can you name who would you put instead of Lawrence there? How about that? Who would you put instead of Lawrence?
Well, I'd put Lawrence higher, I think. I'd probably have him higher than Geno. I'd have him higher than Goff. I'd have him higher than Dak.
I mean, it's crazy that Geno's on that list. Just putting it out there. I understand he had a great year. Look, I understand he had a great year, but did he have? What was he?
Yeah, I wouldn't rank Geno Smith above Tua, Justin Fields, or Trevor Lawrence.
And there were some incredible players that didn't get any rank. Like, Giants fans should be furious that Andrew Thomas is not on the list. despite being a top 3 left tackle in the NFL.
No, it's just when you look at who the NFL players themselves have ranked in their top 100 versus what a general consensus would be, and we're looking at the quarterbacks because they're the main guys. Like, would Jared Goff make most people's top 10 quarterbacks in the league if you're not a Lions fan? I would say he wouldn't make 85% of lists, 90% of lists.
And look, I want to preempt a comment. I know we're going to have some people in the comments saying we've got two nerds here saying they know more than NFL players.
What are they talking
about? Yeah, no, we're going to get a "you guys don't know ball" comment. It happens every show. But look, I think here's the prime example of why you can't necessarily, just because they're NFL players doesn't mean a whole lot. There is a correct answer.
People will not be happy with.
Yeah, there's a correct answer about who the better quarterback is between Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes. Everyone knows it. And yet you get Bradley Chubb and Lane Johnson and Demario Davis and Quinnen Williams and CJ Mosley, all going on and talking about how Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFL and they'd rather have him than Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what?
It's just not right.
No, it's just I get that people have this ridiculous view that opinions are just opinions and can't be right or wrong. That's just false.
Yeah, and by no means, Ziggy, do me or you know more about football than anyone in the NFL.
No. I don't mean we know more about football. All I mean is they're not guaranteed to be right.
Oh yeah. No, I'm saying I agree with you. But at the end of the day, there are some things that, yes, even a fan or even an analyst, Patrick Mahomes is better than Jalen Hurts. Lamar Jackson, I would say, is better than Jared Goff. Jared Goff had a really good end of the season. I don't want to discredit any of these guys who made the list because, frankly, all 14 of them are really, really good. And you can justify it. Jared Goff had an amazing final 10 games with the Lions. It's fair to put him, based on last season, above Lamar, who did struggle at times. And Tua as well. Tua's probably even higher if he doesn't have injuries. So I'm actually okay with the ranking overall. There's a couple of surprises. I wouldn't throw my arms up and be furious at anyone though.
Can I just put one out there that's not a quarterback? And I can't believe this has happened. I can't believe Christian Wilkins was so much lower than Quinnen Williams.
What did he come in
That
at?
hurt so bad.
Do you know what numbers they came in at?
Quinnen was, what was Quinnen? Quinnen was high 50s or 40s or 50s, I think.
Okay.
And
then
then
Wilkins?
Wilkins was 80. He was one after Tua. So
okay. Oh,
81.
So Tua was 82. So Wilkins 81.
Which is incredible.
Here comes the
because
Dolphins.
If you look at the stats, I understand sacks mean a lot. Quinn Williams had 12.5. Great for him. But he had 30 tackles. And I know Ziggy's going to come in, tackles or stat. These guys are interior D linemen.
You'll
right?
never live that down, Ziggy.
Yeah, interior D linemen. You know how many tackles Christian Wilkins had as an interior D lineman?
No.
98.
That's
98 tackles, right? That is incredible that he is almost 40 spots under Quinnen Williams. Or above? What would you say, under or above?
I would say
above. Below?
Yeah.
Below?
Yeah.
Below him. That was mind-boggling to me. Look, Quinnen Williams, great. He had 12.5 sacks.
This really bothered you.
It really did, because he had 12.5 sacks. Look, I understand. Sacks are great. Sweet. Wilkins had 3.5. Understandable. But he had 98 tackles as an interior D tackle.
Yeah,
incredible.
I'll need to look at the numbers more, but I do know that.
Oh, I'm sure. I already see Ziggy. I see the lights flashing.
Ziggy, are you okay with the way that was ranked? Do you have anything to add on to that, or we just let Zach ramble?
No, look. Christian Wilkins is a great player. He caught a touchdown from Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I do think Quinnen Williams is better. But
that's incredible that you think that. It's incredible.
Quinnen Williams is definitely better. No. But Christian Wilkins is an excellent player.
I think stats-wise, Christian Wilkins has been way better over 4 years than Quinnen Williams has.
Well, but we don't care. This isn't an over 4 years ranking, right? Quinnen Williams is getting ranked really high because he gets a bunch of sacks.
If we had more equipment and better production here, I would like to see how many defensive tackles are between them. I'm not sure. There actually might not be any between Quinnen Williams and Wilkins. I think that might be a better measure too of exactly your complaint.
The difference is being accounted for by Quinnen Williams getting 12 sacks and Christian Wilkins getting 3.5. That's the difference. And a sack is way more important than tackling a running back. It's just true.
And we'll take a look. We'll see how many defensive tackles are between them. I will say, I just want to, unless you guys have another top 100 qualm you want to bring up, I am very pleased that Kirk got the recognition that he deserves, being the 6th overall quarterback, 42 overall.
He was almost the most average player.
He was almost.
He was
the middle
6
of the
away.
top 100,
He was almost He was almost 50. He was just 6 above.
The NFL 100 is a good ranking when it agrees with me, and a bad ranking when it doesn't.
Fair, very fair. And Justin Jefferson gets a lot of the praise for the Vikings offense. I will say that, and well deserved. He's amazing, best receiver in football. But Kirk does do an awesome job of getting the most out of Jefferson, because there are a lot of quarterbacks in the league that would limit his ceiling and just how great he can be. He makes crazy catches all the time, but I do think that Kirk's ball placement, honestly, even his willingness to make some of those throws, gives Jefferson the chance to be the number 2 player on the list. So I'm just happy he got that spot, because I do think it's deserved, especially after last season. I mean, that team is so bad without him. The defense is just so horrible. The Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, the 2 of them, carried that team a lot.
You know what I'd like to see? And I'm not sure we don't have this right now, or maybe Ziggy can look it up. Who had the most top 100 players?
I have to imagine it's Philadelphia. I think they had 6.
Did they?
San Francisco could be in there, maybe. But I'm pretty sure
I'm trying
it was
to think
Philly.
how Miami had 5.
You guys had 5?
There were 8 49ers.
I was going to say 49ers were the other team. So who'd 49ers have? Bosa, Warner, Debo, Kittle.
They had
McCaffrey.
Yeah, plus Williams, plus Dre Greenlaw, plus Hufanga.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a...
Yeah, we had 5.
No, I mean, that team's very good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at that. So wait, so the 49ers had 8.
We had 5.
Eagles had 6, I think, and the Dolphins have, man, Dolphins are a good team.
I would like to see, now, with the top 100 out, how do I word this? With the people, these teams that have the most, how they do this year.
Yeah, no, that's we should track that throughout the season. If we can get the top 10.
Well, we can go back to 2022 and see who had the most, actually. The Chargers had the most. The 49ers had the second most. The Buccaneers had the third most, tied with the Cowboys.
So do you have the whole list in front of you?
Of who had the most?
Yeah.
Trying to pull it up here.
If you can pull that up, let's see the top 12 and see how many of them were playoff teams. Because I kind of liked what you did before there, Zach, when we were talking about who was it, the top quarterbacks.
Yeah.
11 of the 14 making the playoffs is pretty cool stat.
Yeah.
I mean, as we said, it makes sense. And the only team without was Brock Purdy and the loaded 49ers who had top 8. If not, we can move on to our game at the end. But let us know, Ziggy, if you...
No, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to pull
Okay,
it up.
we'll find it later. But yeah, let's
real quick,
take a look.
You said
at
the Chargers had the most?
Yeah, the Chargers had the most.
Well,
That's crazy.
What are you thinking? Probably Derwin James, Bosa,
Last year.
Mike Williams,
Mike Williams,
Justin Herbert,
Khalil Mack,
Keenan
Allen,
Allen,
Eckler, maybe.
Rashawn Slater.
Sean Slater.
Could be reaching, but all right. So we'll take a look at that. We'll end with a game here. You know how we've been doing these lists. You got the screen up. There we go. Perfect. For Zach and Ziggy both, we'll bring Zach onto the screen now. He sometimes is a little shy, but we like getting Zach on camera. He prefers to be the voice of God.
I do. I love it.
The top 10 boy names from 1923 to 2022 in the United States.
I already got one. It's Muhammad.
Oh, no. In the United States.
Oh, boo.
In the United States.
Boo. Was I right, though? No, it's Muhammad, isn't it, Ziggy?
No.
In the world.
What are you asking me for?
In the world.
Wait, in the world, it's got to be Muhammad.
In the United States. In the United States. Muhammad is not on. I'll give you a free strike there. Muhammad is not in the top 100.
Okay, well, so we're guessing
Ryan,
the
right,
top
Ziggy?
10 names.
Top 10 boy names, 1923, 2022 in the U.S.
Ryan's
I'm immediately opening with Robert.
Robert
yeah.
is number 2.
No.
You think Ryan's one, Ziggy? I feel like Ryan's a good one.
I don't know. Ryan, I feel like we want to go with old-timey biblical names first. Right? Because you got to keep in mind, 1923 is a while ago. So
Matthew.
I'd go with Matthew.
Matthew is 13.
Okay.
Ziggy, what? Who said Matthew?
John.
Oh, John's definitely one.
John is 3.
David?
I don't know.
David is 5.
Really?
Okay.
Really? David's that far up?
So we've got Robert at 2, Michael at 4.
I'm trying to think back to like college days. Like what name was said the most?
I think Ziggy may have just exploited himself, Zach. Michael
David,
is 4.
John.
Are you looking at a list, Ziggy?
I'm not looking at a list.
Michael 4 is amazing. So Michael is 4.
Oh, hear me out. If we've got John,
This guy.
we got to have Mark.
Mark
Zach, what do you think about Mark? Well, hold on. We haven't guessed yet. What do you think about Mark?
Look,
Mark's got to be
up
up there.
If we're gonna go with the Bible, I'm with you, or whatever.
There's no way you have John at 3 and Michael at 4 and not Mark.
Yeah,
Mark is 15 on the list.
Oh,
so Mark is no good.
I think so. I think we're out of biblical.
So you guys have one left.
Okay.
You have Robert at 2, John at 3, Michael at 4, and David at 5.
Imagine if it was like Isaiah.
Isaiah is not.
No, I know Isaiah is not on there, but I was just saying, imagine.
What are other, like, I'm trying to think of like 80-year-old professor names I've had.
I mean, they are all as expected.
Is
Very
Anthony
common
one?
names.
What do you think of Anthony, Ziggy?
Oh, Anthony. Let's think about it.
I feel like Anthony back in the
name.
day was a popular name, like Tony, like with the nickname Tony. A bunch of like.
It could be.
So Anthony's definitely good, but I worry that leans like too Italian.
Yeah. Hey.
What about like Richard? Like, because there were so many dicks.
Dicks.
Yeah.
Richard.
I like Richard.
That comes in at 7. Yes.
Nice.
Richard.
So what are we missing?
7. So you need 1.
1.
You need 6.
6.
8, 9, 10. So right now you have Robert at 2, John at 3, Michael at 4, David 5, Richard 7.
Who could be
Wait, Paul, do you have the female names in front of you?
I do.
Can we have the number 1 female name?
Mary.
Oh, if Mary's number 1, Joseph's got to be there.
Oh yeah.
Joseph is 8. Yes.
Okay.
Can
we have the number 2 female name?
How do you feel about Alex?
I'm gonna say no on the number 2 female name.
Okay, no. So number 2 female name's got to be a clue.
Yeah, but we don't know what the number 2 female name is.
Well, wait. I haven't even looked. It's.
How do you feel about Alex?
I mean, could be a hint. Like.
So I worry about Alex because like Alexander, where I feel like it gets split between them.
Okay.
Paul, do you know, like, on the list if nicknames are counted differently, if it's just looking like the general name?
It's just the general name. Like Matthew, there's no Matt. It's.
Oh, okay. So actually.
But like, I mean, if you say a name, if you said Matt, I would count that as Matthew.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
So, okay, like Alexander. I'm willing to go with that. What do you think, Zach? You said yes, right?
Look, I said Alex, so yeah, that was my call.
Well, let's go, Alex. Alexander.
God. Paul's already.
I have no idea. So I took a screenshot of it. I do not see Alexander in the top 17.
Really?
Oh boy.
Alexander's not there. Would you guys like one extra?
All right, wait, hold on. We can run the table here. That means if Anthony
is 14.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, so at 10.
You're off to a good start.
You were off to a good start. At 10, you had Christopher or Chris.
Wow, how did we forget Christopher?
So Christopher was 10. I mean, these are a couple big ones here. Thomas was 9.
Thomas
surprises me a little, actually.
Yeah. Well, you know what the problem is? Like, Thomas is just not a common name. Or you know what it is?
It is.
Yeah, obviously. But it's like not a common name now. Like I feel like back in the day, Thomas was probably a bigger name. Like
yeah, I guess you still had some Thomases out there.
Well, look, my middle name's Thomas, but
yeah.
But I don't know how many Thomases do you know?
My middle name's also Thomas, actually.
I know.
Let's go, Ziggy.
I know a few Thomases. I have. Let's see. Currently in my phone. Let's see how many Toms I have in my phone. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Toms in my phone.
Jeez.
I mean, to be fair, I don't really talk to half of them, but
yeah, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so
right,
Thomas came in at 9. You guys got Joseph and Richard at 8, 7. 6 was William.
Oh,
William.
Then you had 5 through 2 with David, Michael, John, and Robert. And number 1, I would not have considered this too highly to be the number one pick, but James was number one.
James.
So how much? Okay.
Well, you got like Jimmy.
How much more popular was
Jim.
James than the ones that are after it?
James was.
It's like a percentage.
I don't have the percentages here, but I have a number. I don't know. I think it's
okay. I can do the percentage.
4,625,000 for James, and then Robert was 4,357,000.
So that's like 9% more. That's more than I thought. That's a James domination.
Yeah, I mean,
wait, was there between James and what was 10? Christopher?
Christopher, yes, it was. So that was big. That was 4.6 million compared to 2 million.
Jeez,
a lot of Jameses, But you're right. I wasn't thinking about Jim and Jimmy, and
yeah. There's a lot of nicknames. For
I do know quite a few Jims and Jimmys out there. I mean, your cousin Zach, as we said.
Yeah. How is Zach not on there? What are we doing, Zacharias?
Well, maybe in time, if you have enough kids.
No, nobody.
Hold on, let me pull this list up.
Nobody names Zach anymore.
Top 100 boys' names.
How many Zachs do you know?
You said last 100 years, Paul?
Last 100 years. 1923 to 2022.
Oh, is it like the Social Security Administration one?
Yes.
Zachary is 57 at 545,000.
Where's Paul at?
I'm one of a kind.
The female equivalent for Zachary is Virginia.
Where's Paul at?
God.
Paul is at a 19, equivalent of Donna.
Donna? How about Ziggy?
Ziggy's not on here, Paul.
No, you got Robert at 2 there.
Yeah.
The Robert equivalent is Patricia.
Yeah.
Really? Patricia?
That's number 2, but Mary, it looks like solos. Mary's almost double Patricia.
What's 3 for girls?
The top 10 girls was
Jennifer.
Mary, Patricia, Jennifer, 4 Linda, 5 Elizabeth, 6 Barbara, 7 Susan, 8 Jessica, 9 Sarah, 10 Karen. It's Mary I would expect. I don't think I'd be able to really guess.
I don't know that many Marys either.
No,
but that's one of those names.
No, yeah, it's just I understand, but like when you really think about it, like how many? Well, Mr. Social over there might know.
Let's see how many Marys.
A lot of Marys, but
1, 2, 3, 4. I don't even know this one. Who's? I mean, like the other Tommies, I knew everyone on my list. I don't know one of the Marys on my phone here.
You know what's crazy about this list is this list is a 100% sample.
What?
Like every single boy's name from 1923 to 2023 is included in this list. It's not like a projection.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What do you think? Here's the real question. Number 100 is the lowest this goes. What do you think the number 100 name is?
The number 100.
Is it like a real name or is it like a?
No, it's a real name. Like there's 300,000. You've heard this name plenty of times before.
Edward.
It is not Edward. Edward is at a 28.
Yeah, all right.
Is it Declan?
Declan?
Yeah, Edward is way too high.
No, Declan's not on here.
Wait,
it is Eugene.
Eugene. I never would have got that. Eugene.
Wait, Declan's not even on the list?
No.
I mean, that's not surprising. Declan's not that common.
But that's crazy. Look, I said something that was off the list.
Okay, but there are nicknames further down, right? So like Bobby's further down.
Bobby?
Yeah, but I count Bobby and the Robert.
Yeah.
What I mean is just like
strictly
so people
Bobby.
don't name their kids nicknames. Maybe that's a new thing.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more people being named like Jim and Chris.
How many apples are there in the world?
How many apples?
Yeah. Kids named
Hold on. If you go on Wolfram Alpha, you can actually like check how many people in the world are named to different things.
Interesting. All right.
How many people are named Apple? I gotta check.
And then we'll wrap up because I'm sure at this point people
406 in the United States are named Apple.
That's a unique name right there.
It's crazy.
How about Leotis real quick? Leotus. Jack always said I should name my firstborn son Leotis Farrington.
1,550.
Damn it. Too common. All right, we'll wrap up the show with that. Drop in your favorite baby name in in the chat. What are you naming your kids?
Imagine one of us just drops a pregnancy. I'm looking for a baby name.
Sheesh. That would be a big reveal. Not yet, at least. Maybe Jack, who knows, but you know.
You throw him under the bus like that?
All right, we will see you. We will see. Yeah, not really. We all know the truth. That was supposed to be a slight, but now I realize that in saying the slight, it makes it sound like I'm doubling down on what I said before. I meant it as all right. You know, before we continue that, God. We will see you on actually tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Paul Farrington Show. Preseason football right around the corner. We are very, very close. So we've had the Hall of Fame game, but the real kickoffs, they start tomorrow. So we're excited. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening. Ciao.